Alrighty, welcome to a new tutorial. Today I will be showing you how to make a kick drum, well a raw kick actually, from Silence 1 and some plugins you might be using. So I try to use the plugins that most of you use, and I also try not to use shitloads of plugins. So we will just stick to probably 6 or 7 plugins. And you can do this in any DAW. So the first plugin I'll be using will be Silence. In Silence, we will just create a very simple kick. You can actually see the settings right here, and that's the kick. So it's only a silence kick. What I did, we will go to the oscillator A1, turn it up to 1 voice, and we add a filter only on this oscillator, so only in the input select should be A. It can be A and B, but it doesn't matter in this case. And the filter type should be a low pass filter, and the cutoff like this. So yeah, that's actually it. The filter control like this, and we'll play with the pitch and mod envelopes to create a punchy sound, you know. So this one is for the longer attack, which is like the very first part of the kick. It's a boop boop, you know. And the second one is just for the click. So without it, it sounds a bit different. But it's not well, it's not much, and we don't need lots of tweaks here to achieve the sound. Next, we go to the distortion part, to the distortion section, and I just add some clip distortion, and that's basically it. So from this kick, we are going to make a super hard raw kick, which will actually sound like this in the end. Or it will also be, so we will create different versions. So this one will be another one. So we'll try to create these kicks. Okay, so the next step, we will add a fab filter, and I'll just get rid of the low end around there. I don't know why. It's just, yeah, I just do things I like, so yeah, that's what it does. Sort of takes some rumble, but it only does, so it doesn't really do something. Yeah, but I found it in a way useful. So I'm not applying gain staging in the process of creating kicks. So I just do what sounds nice, and I don't care about anything, which is the way to go, which is not the proper audio engineering. But it doesn't matter, as we will take care of the audio engineering at the end. When the kick is almost finished, we will apply an equalizer that will do a nice job even in an audio engineering perspective, you know. All right, so the next thing, after we just added isotope, which is basically the amp drainer, the preset, and we just crank this up, and that's it. The next thing we apply is a rack, an audio effect rack. So this is the Ableton stock stuff I'm using here. I do that because it doesn't work well with the Fab Filter Pro Q. So if it works well with your DAW or with your Ableton, do it with the Fab Filter, no problem. And what I just did, I duplicated this equalizer and brought the gain up to 10 dB, and it actually is just to achieve a boost of 20 dB, you know. And I control the frequency with a mapped controller here. So this is just for the movement, and we also we bring this movement again into distortion. So we apply another amp drainer like this. And that's the thing we can start from. So it's very simple. Well, the next thing I did was I recorded this thing and I chopped it and I put it into the punch processing here. So this will be only the punch now. So yeah, let's select the whole thing, and okay, I can switch those off. Maybe I should have switched them off before starting the tutorial, but sometimes I'm a bit planless. Anyway, okay, so this is the distorted kick with the, yeah, as the punch. So I will use this as the punch. The first thing I just applied isotope, just distortion without any effects. Another rack. I just copy pasted this one and created a different movement automation. Like this. And then I apply another isotope. It's very important that you understand that I don't do this movement automation and then apply isotope. Of course, I always drive the automation, the EQ automation, into the distortion. So I can't do this knowing it will sound good with the isotope on it. So we do that always with the isotope on it, and then we tweak this, okay? And another EQ that kind of just chops off the low end because we don't need that. So to get the punch sound from a sound that it doesn't really have a good, I mean, this is just a distorted thing. We do, well, I figured out a nice, well, just a nice thing to do, which is applying a reverb. And this is in an effect rack, but it doesn't do anything, so I just didn't put it back. So this is just going through a reverb. All this, the whole signal is going through a plate reverb. Plate reverb because I can use no width, so we have a mono reverb, which is nice, and the plate, the Valhalla plate, has a nice mono reverb. The mix is all the way on 100%, and sounds like this. So it's completely different. Then we apply another isotope to this, just in this case the blues driver. And then an automation that just chops off the tail. So I don't want the stuff, this reverb stuff. I just want a short chop of reverb. The next thing is another effect rack. Again with the yeah, with this is just copy pasted again, just some movement, another EQ that brings up some mids, and an isotope trash, so you can just pause the video and check what I did. So there's just a little distortion, and you see this does a lot. So there we already have a kind of punchy sound, and that was I just record the very first, so like this, the following, because if you just run it in loop, it sounds different. And we want the very first one. So I recorded that one, the punch processing, and it's gonna, I just put it here, and now it's called the character. So this is the same sound. So we are going to the kick. This is gonna to the record. Okay, so I have to, oh yeah, and of course we have to bring up the record as well, and these should be switched off. I'm just sorry for not having done this before. I mean, and that's already nice. That's great. That's what we want. Okay. So yeah, this is the character, and I just applied another EQ. Just to chop off the low end again. Very simple. All right. Now we need a sub punch, and you see this is the sub punch. And for the sub punch, I go back up again, and we will go to the sub punch FX kick sub punch processing. So this is again the FX kick from silence. just the kick. It's the same. And this EQ, I recorded this and I just threw it here. And this is the recorded one. Okay. So after I set a volume automation in the sample, so you can set volume automations here, and this is the volume automation I set. So I boosted this part and boosted this part, and this should be like, I cut this a bit, and then I applied it and made it louder again. Then I chopped it a bit, so I just kind of got rid of this stuff and brought it together like this. So you can really do nice fades here, so that you don't have like edges or something. So you don't want something like this, because this will clearly get some clicks, you know, this cut. And so we do a fade here. And after having done that, oops, so I just brought it together as a new sample, and this is another volume automation I put on the sample, and then I rendered that again, and this is the final sample. Oops. Which I again made just louder and put it here. So this is the final sub punch. So you see, this is only silence, one EQ, and just cutting and doing automations on the sample itself, making things louder, cutting things, and yeah, you get a kick like this. Okay, we throw this on the sub punch here, and I just faded it because, yeah, I just thought, okay, it might be better like this, like that. You just fade a bit and then play around with it until you like it. So I didn't like it the way I created it here, so I decided to change it a bit. And also there is an automation again on this, just bring it up a lot. Alright, this is the punch. So now we will go to the talk. The talk is a group as well. That's my talk. The first thing I did, I created a sub talk. Sounds like this. Quite boring. And yes, on the sub talk, I created. I just took the attack of the sub punch. This one. This is the very attack of the sub punch. I pitch it up by, I think, 48 semitones or 25, I don't know. Okay, 24 semitones. Pitched it, and this actually, after rendering, leads to this shape, and you get, yeah, this sound. This sound I put here, and I added another isotope trash, amp drainer, and another EQ, get rid of the low end a bit. And I added a noise. So this could be a hi-hat, but it's actually from silence again, it's CFX noise in this case. So you just create a FX noise. Very simple, just copy paste and change the, so copy paste from the FX kick. And change the wave to noise, and that's it, and bring up the cutoff, or this cutoff, and that's it. So it doesn't really do anything, so I'm just lazy, you know. So this doesn't do anything. You just get this sound, and you layer it on your sub-talk, and the actual talk will be the whole thing. I'll add a little bit of OTT to get the, you know, this punchiness that you really need. And in this case, I kind of applied gain staging, so you see that the actual sound is not getting louder when applying this. Okay, well, it is getting louder a bit, but it's not like, you know, like you're boosting it like 10 dB or so. So it's just a bit, and another EQ that gets rid of the low end, because this one brings the low end Yeah. So that's it. All right, this will be the whole attack then. All right, let's move to the tail. The tail, yeah, the same thing. I just took the punch processing, so the tail of this punch thing, actually from this FX kick. And where are we going? Yeah, this is the tail. So the first thing is this one. Why don't we hear any of this? Alright. Alright, this is the tail without all of these. And what I'm doing now is we'll just add an EQ. It's important you have this one on linear phase because you'll get distortions in this area. So below 250 Hertz, it's better like to have it on if you don't want the equalizer to affect the actual sound. Okay, so we're just having a low end here. Then I create a crunch. Crunch. So it's also from the same sound again. And to get the crunch, we do a low cut. Bring in some movement with another EQ. Add isotope. In this case, it's the crunchy taco, which is great for this. And then we add another low cut. Then I get rid of the width. Like for no real purpose. Actually, there is no stereo, but anyway. We throw in a bit of chorus to get a bit more of stereo. And we use the utility to let it like fade in. Okay. So the next will be the whole thing actually. Yeah, like this. Okay, so this is the whole thing now, and we're adding isotope again. No distortion, just bring this up. Then I will throw an isotope ozone imager, like to get the high end nice. So I want some stereo in the high end. Another trash. And a utility to control how how we've merged the attack and the tail. There we go. That's the actual kick. So now this is the kick we can work with. Okay. So the next thing we do is like we render the kick down, bounce it down, create a sample, and we can now work with this kick. So the first kick would be like the kick type 1 here. Just that one. Let's switch this one off. And in this case, we just reverse the attack. Put some isotope again to distort it a bit. And get rid of the low end. That's it. So there are several versions I did here. So I did the same with another sound, which actually is this punch processing again, but just the sample I just made it longer and just took a part from somewhere in the back of the sample. All right. And a pitched kick here. It's this one. I like this one the most because it's really rawish. So what I did here is I just took the attack, the attack, the punch actually, and I did a transposition automation here, so we get plus 17 semitones here, we go down to plus 4, and then we go, yeah, just to the original, and it makes the attack sounding like this. Yeah, it's just a pitch automation, it's nothing special. The talk is not affected at all, and the tail is going from a pitch plus 3 down to 0. And then you get really get like this, which I find quite nice. Okay, next, quite important would be the the processing when you use the kick in the track. And most of the stuff I did was really playing with the samples itself and not applying lots of effects. So I did apply effects, of course, but I think you can do a lot by just pitching things up or down, and that's what I did. Also, what's nice, sometimes you can just pitch up a sample, see what the algorithm does to the sample, and then pitch it down again, and you might get a different sound. So that can be very cool as well. Righty, so the next thing I did was get the kick in sort of mix, you know. So applying reverb is a huge and very important thing, so that's why we'll concentrate on that for a bit. So this is the kick with the reverb on it. So this is the reverb only, and what I did, the reverb, you will send the whole kick to a bus. Okay, you can do that in FL Studio. Just send the kick to a bus, and I know you now might be seeing I do use FL Studio because it's there. Yeah, that's true, but I guess it will take some more time until there will be a tutorial on FL Studio, because I just really can't get along with the workflow, especially for kicks. I don't find it handy, so I'm really used to Ableton, and that's why this tutorial is in Ableton again. All right, so get rid of the low end with a shelf, but we don't want to kill it because the Valhalla should be affected by a bit of the low end, but we don't want the low end to affect it too much. Even though we cut off the low end later on, it's still different. So the low end that comes through here will affect the reverb in a different way than without the low end. So that's why we don't do it here, the low cut. Sometimes you can do it here in Mixdown. It's quite, it's a common technique to do that, but we don't want to do it here now. Right, so this is the settings. It's just Valhalla. It's a large chamber, and I just created this preset. You can just look at it. It's nothing special. It's just a large room. Now we get rid of the low end. I apply a bit of Saturn, actually I put the lead crystallizer. I wanted the reverb crystallizer. I don't know why. Reverb, the reverb brightener, yeah. But anyway, it sounds okay now. So we just kind of want to get the reverb quite bright. And we apply another EQ and boost the high end again. Make it really bright. Apply a compressor that does a very strange thing. So if I bring up the drive weight to 100%, you see the attack and release are very, very, very fast. This will lead to the reverb sounding actually like the tail of the kick. So you can hear the structure of the tail in the reverb. Because it's like the reverb is like getting through when so it's really like coming through when there is no peak here. So it's like having a peak on this one and on this one and on this one. So the reverb is kind of ducked very fast, so fast that it even kind of affects the shape of the kick. And I like the effect, not 100%, but like 50%. It's quite nice, and it sounds distorted and noisy, but it still sounds like reverb. And then I just apply a gain utility and make the reverb going when the kick is playing. So not 100%, but like -50, to have it like bouncing around a bit. And that's a very essential thing. You can do that with a sidechain compression as well, surely. But I really like to do it like this because I can control every single bit. You know, even if there's like a screech going, which is like doing something in this one, in this part, but it's not doing anything here, I could, well, tweak the reverb a bit, not to have it fighting with a screech or something like that, you know? Okay, so that's what I do. So, and then the dry signal, so the dry kick is going through, and it mixes with the reverb. Okay. Yeah, then I apply an EQ that does nothing. That's cool. Another trash, just a bit. Distortion. Just to make it louder. Yeah, and there's a limiter, just actually for you guys to hear what this stuff sounds like. Okay, so let's play the whole thing. These are just the different versions. Okay, so these were some versions with different tails, or actually like reversed parts of the kick. Well, I did this like within an hour or 1 hour and 30 minutes or so. So it's not 100% done, but it's a good way to show you how you can create kicks from silence, or using any VST to create a basic sound that will lead to kick. And this also to show you that you don't need all these samples. So yeah, a VST will be enough. So what I would be doing after this, the kick I'd export would be this one. Export. I don't think you would say that. Bounce. Okay. So the kick I'd bounce down would be this one, with an EQ on it. The EQ should be on linear phase again, so you should set it to maximum when you really export it. And this is just an EQ that kind of gets rid a bit of the mud here, but you shouldn't exaggerate that. A tiny boost in the middle, a boost in the high end. So this is let's call this the mastering of the kick. And I also applied some gain staging here. So this is a -1.8. So the kick doesn't get louder. It even gets a bit quieter when applied this. So that's important. You can see this by the dB meter here. So it's very important that your EQ, when you apply it, doesn't make the sound worse, and you cannot distinguish that if you just make it louder with your EQ, because boosting something like boosting this means you make the whole sound, the whole signal will be louder. That's quite logical. And if it sounds better because you made it louder, then it doesn't sound better. So yeah, apply a dB meter and check if you really just made it louder, and probably reduce the gain to reach the same level that you had before applying the EQ. And if it sounds better, then the EQ did good work, or you did good work with the EQ. And if it just sounds worse, then you just were tricked by your ears. They usually like think something sounds better if it's louder. But you don't want to make it louder. You want to change the sound. And that's a very important way and a very important thing. You should always check that. And better do that in headphones if your listening environment is not as good as anyone's. Wow. That was interesting. There was a tiny fly right on the microphone. Okay, so that's a very important thing. You should not use the EQ if it really sounds like shit, and you can't distinguish if it sounds like shit without understanding that your ear thinks things sound better when you make them louder. So use it all wisely, and I hope that helps you guys a bit to make to produce kicks from scratch, from no good samples, from no nothing, just using silence and the common plugins used to create kicks. You should always keep in mind this can take months to create good sounds, but I think you can get to this basic sound if you follow this tutorial, so you can really get to this basic kick and work with this one to create new kicks. So the last kick I already showed you is a good example of how to make something good out of another kick. And create your own sample library. Create kicks and create kicks from other kicks, and you will get better and better, and you will understand that the stuff you use will be more valuable the more you create from it. So I can just show you my samples. I have my own samples here, and there are many samples and kicks. I just try to create something that sounds like someone else, like this Xtra stuff. And I created this one from this one probably, and I created this kick. I created this one from another kick, so I never go from scratch. But my very first kick it's the kick which actually is the father of all the other kicks, you know. So try to build your own sample library and use the samples you created to create new stuff. Tweak it, pitch it, change it, and you will somewhere get to a good sound, and you can create anything, really anything from your own samples. So the first step, create a good sample, or a sample that sounds like a kick, and use this one to create new stuff. So my next step would be, now I would go to this kick and I would probably just use the attack of this one and like use it for something, for some other kick. I would use only the reverb of this attack. I would use only the tail, whatever. That's the way how I do it, and it always works for me. And yeah, that's it. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope we will meet soon again. So goodbye.